The story begins at Jiangnan University, with someone relentlessly yelling the name of Lu Donglai. The instructor orders the young man to wake up immediately in the middle of the classroom. As he dozed off the second a question was raised. Startled, the guy wakes up breathing heavily and completely thrown off. All around him, the other students laugh, calling him a hopeless fool for falling asleep right in the middle of a lecture. Completely disoriented, the MC questions himself about the situation and how he is still breathing. Demanding silence, the teacher points out that it is a shame the Lu family has such a useless successor. Right after, the students start whispering that the guy is a total disgrace and only serves as a walking punchline to insult his own bloodline. Taking in his surroundings, he realizes he has reincarnated, and his soul has just taken over the body of this Lu Donglai guy. In his past life, he went by the name Yi Tianji, an absolute master in the cultivation universe, an expert in forging and alchemy. After enduring the lightning tribulations, the cultivator was one mere step away from walking through the gates of immortality. However, his tragic downfall happened solely due to the betrayal of a female partner. The backstabber was named Shuinger, a girl he considered family but who, in reality, was the heir of the Soul Emperor out for payback. Severely wounded, Yi Tianji listens to the young woman mock his trust and ask if he would go down without a fight. Filled with rage, the master declares that those who crossed him would never make it out of that place in one piece. As a last resort, he chose to self-destruct to drag the girl and the demon lords to their demise along with him. With a burning desire for a second chance at life, the master decides to use this body to settle the score for the kid's humiliations and wrap up his own unfinished business. Scanning the boy's mind, the cultivator notices that Lu Donglai was not genuinely foolish. What actually happened was that someone planted a toxic needle in his brain, constantly messing with his nerves. Because it was such a precise and vicious move, it definitely was not the work of some average Joe. Since the original owner passed away before the soul transfer, the poisoned object needed to be removed as soon as possible. Standing up, the MC makes the call to level up this body and teach a lesson to everyone who wronged the kid, as a form of payback. Annoyed by the interruption, the teacher tells the supposedly useless student to sit back down right that second. Finding it absurd for an educator to insult his own student, the master asks what the guy thinks he is doing. Faced with the sharp comeback, the teacher is completely stunned by the young man's nerve. While the man yells in outrage, the cultivator finds it hilarious that someone is trying to boss around a sect leader of his caliber. Walking out of the classroom, the MC vows to live in this world with absolute dignity, embracing this new identity. From that moment on, Yi Tianji was no more, leaving only Lu Donglai. Strolling through the streets, the young man finds it fascinating how people manage to live such convenient lives without using any sort of cultivation. Settling down on the ground in an isolated spot, he figures out the biggest hurdle of this environment. When he tries to draw in spiritual energy, Lu Donglai notices it is so incredibly rare on Earth that it would take millennia to regain his full power. Putting the energy issue on the back burner for now, he focuses on fixing the most critical problem inside his own head. Upon reaching the college's male dorm building, he finds the place pretty quiet. Once inside his room, the guy gets ready to perform the procedure. Locking the door, he feels relieved that his roommates are in class, certain that no one will interrupt the extraction. Checking the clock, Lu Donglai notes he has a little over 1 hour, an adequate time frame to get the job done. To avoid wrecking the bed with spiritual pressure, the cultivator decides to sit right on the floor. The culprit knew exactly what they were doing, since the needle was not immediately fatal nor detectable by standard medical exams. Still, such a cheap trick is nothing for a supreme master, who immediately starts circulating his energy. Because it is as thin as a silk thread, the MC deduces that the person behind the poisoning was an expert in energy manipulation. With extreme precision, the malicious object begins to be pushed out of the young man's brain. Feeling the malice of that technique, he promises to obliterate the coward who did this to a kid. Because it had been lodged in the flesh for many years, the extraction demands a massive chunk of the cultivator's spiritual energy. Through an intense surge of power, the needle is finally expelled from his body. The shockwave from the released energy is so brutal that it actually cracks the glass of the clock hanging on the dorm wall. Completely drained, Lu Donglai collapses to the floor gasping for air, feeling the toll of a body that endured damage for a long time. Unable to handle the overwhelming strain, the guy ends up passing out right there on the bedroom floor. Sometime later, he suddenly wakes up lying in a cozy bed. Noticing the IV drip hooked to his arm, the cultivator figures out that his weakened state landed him in the hospital. Right then, he spots a young woman asleep resting her head on the blankets and lets out a soft gasp of surprise. Rubbing her eyes, the girl slowly wakes up upon hearing the sound. Super relieved, she addresses the MC as her brother and celebrates the fact that he finally woke up. Eager for an update, the young woman rushes down the hospital halls calling for the doctors. After checking the patient, the doctor assures her that the young man is just dealing with mild mental fatigue. Worried sick, she begs for extra tests, but the medic guarantees he just needs a good meal to be discharged. With teary eyes, the girl smiles brightly, making the master realize he had not been on the receiving end of such a warm look in hundreds of years. In his past life, Yi Tianji was entirely focused on his martial advancement. Digging through his memories, he confirms she is Yi Qiqing, the daughter of his adoptive parents who always stood up for him against bullies. That family abandoned him the minute the mental diagnosis came through, but the young woman never stopped looking out for him. Thinking about his quirky fate, the MC notices the huge coincidence of both of them sharing the same last name. While the girl expresses her gratitude to the doctor, Lu Donglai promises himself that he will never let this sister suffer again. Trying to lighten the mood, the guy jokes that she almost gave him a heart attack with all that panic. Wiping the tears from her face, he asks the young woman to stop crying before she turns into a messy little kitten. Surprised by the affectionate behavior, Yi Qiqing notices her brother is acting in a very different way. Staring intently at the guy, she asks since when his expression became so bright and full of life. Astonished, the girl finally connects the dots and asks if her brother is no longer a fool. Petting her head, Lu Donglai assures her he is no longer an idiot and is actually a sharp guy now. With his mind firing on all cylinders, the young man shifts his focus to the enemies hiding in the shadows. Surrounded by a dangerous aura, he swears he will not let any of the culprits get away without facing the music. The next morning, sunlight brightens up the massive campus of Jiangnan University. In the crowded cafeteria, several students start pointing at a guy who is eating like there is no tomorrow. Devouring piles of food non-stop, the MC inhales everything in sight to recharge his batteries. Even though his sister told him to rest, the cultivator knows the payback tour needs to kick off soon, as the news of his recovery will spread. While the other students gossip about whether he was possessed by a starving ghost, the master merely sighs at how ridiculously frail that body is. Clueless about who is pulling the strings behind the attack, the young man understands he will have to play his cards very carefully. Focused on getting back to 100% as quickly as possible, a quiet afternoon rolls in at the library building. Flipping through pages at lightning speed, Lu Donglai burns through a massive pile of books in the college library. Sizing up the situation, he concludes that the spiritual energy in this world is so scarce that standard cultivation methods are a no-go. In the background, some students start laughing at the guy, finding it funny that he is pretending to read just for clout. Brushing off the teasing, the cultivator figures he will have to use herbs to tweak the recipes from his home world. Checking out the illustrations in the guides, the MC searches for healing plants that offer results similar to the materials he used to work with. Later that night, the university dorms are completely silent. Sitting on the floor of the dark room, the guy starts channeling his newly discovered energy intensely. Analyzing his own condition, he complains about how trash the body is and how clogged the energy channels are. Determined to fix this once and for all, the master decides to inject all the energy he gathered over the past few days straight into those pathways. Laser-focused on the task, his goal is to flush out the lingering poison toxins from his system for good. With a controlled burst of power, Lu Donglai finally hits the first layer of qi condensation. Enjoying the level up, he tests out his heightened senses, clearly feeling every shift of the wind around him. Just then, an unexpected sound pops up behind the young man while he is enjoying his new power level. Startled, one of his roommates suddenly wakes up and asks why on earth he's sitting on the balcony at this hour. Completely dazed and sleepy, the kid just tells his friend to get back to bed so they can catch some sleep. Looking at his doormate, Lu Donglai wonders if the commotion from his breakthrough ended up making too much noise in the room. Taking a closer look, the guy scratches his head upon noticing something very different about his friend's vibe. Coming up with a quick excuse, the MC just gives his buddy a hug and tries to smooth things over to avoid raising any eyebrows. Hyped, the friend compliments the MC's new haircut, believing the makeover made him look way cooler. Seeing the innocent reaction, the cultivator lets out a sigh of relief, realizing he stressed over nothing regarding his secret getting out. Mentioning the chilly breeze, the roommate goes back inside and suggests he hits the sack soon so he does not catch a cold. Mentally grateful for how nice these guys were to the body's previous owner, the master refocuses on his true goal. To protect the people who matter, he promises that his cultivation journey will push forward relentlessly, no matter what it takes. The following morning, the sun shines over the female dorms at the same college. Glaring at her phone screen, Yi Qiqing celebrates the fact that her brother solved a massive math equation in a matter of seconds. Curious about the sudden burst of joy, a doormate asks if the young woman has a crush on someone. Turning around abruptly, the girl denies having a boyfriend and proudly clears up that her older brother has gotten better. Shocked by the news, the friend recalls the nasty rumors floating around campus about the Liu family heir. Bothered by the gossip, Yi Qiqing defends the guy, guaranteeing he will soon show everyone what he is truly capable of. Changing the subject, the friend pulls up a video that just blew up on the university's social media. On the screen, the MC is seen practicing martial arts on the sports field while becoming the internet's latest laughingstock. Stressed, the girl notices her brother is turning into a target for public mockery all over again. Outside, Lu Donglai keeps at his focused movements, paying zero attention to the stares of the crowd. From a distance, other students point at the young man, gossiping about the fool who thinks he is some elite martial arts master. Evaluating his own form, the cultivator admits these basic strikes are perfect for toning his current physical body. Without stopping his workout, the young man picks up on heavy footsteps approaching from behind in an intimidating way. Stopping a few feet away, the unknown guy intentionally blocks his path. Turning his head slightly, the MC looks at the massive dude who just broke his focus. The aggressor, named Lin Qin, stares him down with a look of pure contempt. Keeping his cool, the cultivator casually asks who the guy is looking for. Flashing an arrogant smirk, the huge dude says the rumors about the idiot's recovery seem to be true after all. Faced with the cheap insult, the master finds the whole ordeal to be nothing but a huge hassle. Having zero patience for childish games, he sighs, tired of this pathetic scene, and asks him to step aside. Raising his voice, Lin Qin orders the young man to stay away from Yi Qiqing, referring to him as dump trash. Hearing the slur, the MC finds it incredibly ironic that a mere mortal has the audacity to try and insult a former immortal master. Maintaining his unbothered attitude, the protagonist warns him that his sister's life is none of his business and tells the guy to get lost. Thinking he won the argument, the bully steps closer, assuming the young man finally gave up on the girl. However, Lu Donglai quickly shuts down his hype, stating that a miserable creep like him would never deserve Yi Qiqing. Boiling with rage from the direct disrespect, the massive dude grits his teeth, feeling his blood boil. Watching the opponent's useless anger, the master thinks to himself that a guy like this wouldn't even be fit to sweep the floors of his old sect. Completely losing his cool, Lin Qin lunges at the young man, looking to settle things with his fists. Spotting the cheap shot coming his way, the cultivator's gaze turns terrifyingly sharp. Reminiscing about his glory days, he thinks about how even emperors had to bow down to him with absolute respect. With a casual flick, the MC catches the opponent's punch midair without breaking a sweat. Frozen in place, the massive guy goes into shock as he watches his full-strength strike get stopped by someone so scrawny. Taking advantage of the perfect opening, Lu Donglai twists the attacker's arm without a second of hesitation. Busting out the first form of his combat style, he hits the guy with devastating power. The impact echoes across the field as the bully drops to his knees, screaming in pure agony. Freaked out by the sound, the other students stop laughing and try to process the crazy scene that just went down. Glancing at his downed opponent, the master sighs at the sheer stupidity of trying to use brute force against a cultivator. Even though he is still at the absolute bottom tier of energy, the MC knows his strength is more than enough to handle regular humans. Seeing what happened, a classmate runs over to help Lin Qin, assuming it was all just a freak accident during practice. Humiliated, the big guy swats the help away and tries to get up on his own to save whatever dignity he has left. But the guy freezes instantly when he feels a crushing, dangerous aura rolling off Lu Donglai. Sweating bullets, the bully cannot wrap his head around how a regular student can give off such a terrifying vibe. Absolutely terrified and unable to make eye contact with the young man, he meekly asks if he can leave now. Figuring out how things work here, the master deduces that this meathead doesn't have the brains to plan a random attack for nothing. Cornering the guy, the cultivator demands to know the name of the coward who used him as an errand boy. Shaking with fear, the big guy spills right away that he was put up to it by a freshman from the economics and management department. Before the payback can continue, the young woman's frantic voice rings out, calling for her older brother from afar. Sprinting across the campus out of breath, Yi Qiqing finally reaches the duo in the middle of the sports court. Deeply concerned about his safety, she checks him over to see if the big guy left any bruises. Gently patting the young woman's hair, Lu Donglai assures her he is in one piece and tries to defuse the situation. Shooting a death glare at the injured attacker, the girl makes it clear she has zero pity for the guy. Screaming at the top of her lungs, she tells the meathead to get out of her sight, stating once again that she despises his behavior. Giving him a solid warning, Yi Qiqing threatens that she will not let him off the hook if he ever has the nerve to mess with her brother again. Scared out of his mind, Lin Qin nods and bolts, feeling relieved that it is not the cultivator picking a fight with him. Calming things down, the girl introduces her best friend, Guru, to the MC. Checking the young woman out, the master notices her peculiar physique and blocked channels, feeling bad that his current lack of power cannot save her from an early end. When asked if something is wrong, Lu Donglai plays it off while walking, figuring it is smarter not to get too involved with his sister's friend right now. Instead, he chooses to focus on the mastermind behind the attack and look into the connection with the poison needle, saving the young woman's treatment for later. Then the cultivator asks which building houses the economics department, getting the right directions from the young woman. Marching with a purpose through the college, he plans on exposing everyone who tries to mess with him from the shadows. Watching the scene unfold, Guru sounds impressed by how the guy is carrying himself in a totally different way now. Meanwhile, the economics and management building stands tall in the center of the university. Inside, students are already whispering about the beatdown Lin Chin took, convinced that the idiot's recovery is nothing but an act. Agreeing with the theory, Lin Nanhong assumes the Lu family is using the young man to scheme behind the scenes. Furious, the ringleader punches his desk hard, unleashing enough force to actually crack the wood. Standing up full of confidence, he promises to take this hidden chess piece off the board with his own 2 hands. Outside, the MC arrives ready to show everyone what he is really made of. Suddenly, the classroom door is kicked wide open with serious force by Lu Donglai. Inside, Lin Nanhong was just bragging about being able to crush the discarded pawn anytime right before the loud bang. Standing in the doorway with his hands in his pockets, the cultivator scans the room looking entirely unbothered. Shocked by the break-in, the teacher tells the young man to leave immediately, warning him that class is about to start. Ignoring the man completely, the MC demands to know which one of them is the person he is looking for. At that, the students start whispering about the intruder's good looks, quickly realizing he is the infamous campus failure. Dripping with arrogance, the leader of the group finds the guy's guts to show up they're pretty remarkable. Ready to back up their boss, the goons crack their knuckles looking for a brawl. Full of spite, the bullies warn the intruder he has to go through them first if he wants to reach his target. Without breaking a sweat, the master just dodges and sighs, disappointed by how slow their so-called lethal moves are. At that exact second, he delivers a crushing punch straight to the opponent's face. Thanks to the ridiculous impact, the lackey is sent flying, coughing up blood onto the classroom floor. Staring down the frozen class, the young man warns them he is only going to ask one more time. Giving off a suffocating vibe, he orders the culprit to step up right then and there. Dumbfounded by the savage strength, the students wonder if that monster is really the old loser. It turns out Lin Nanhong's family has a military background, backing him with serious power that everyone assumes is unbeatable for a normal student. Stepping up, the bully admits they seriously underestimated Lu Donglai's skills. Tossing his jacket aside, the big guy flexes his muscles and proudly announces who he is. Feeling the heavy tension, the classmates decide the MC just signed his own ticket by provoking that dude. Totally lost, one student asks what the heck is going on in the middle of the classroom. Confident he is going to win, the leader tells the teacher not to stress, promising to wrap things up quick. Showing zero fear, the cultivator suggests they take this outside to the sports field. However, the rival shoots down the idea, stating that the classroom is a perfectly fine place for a beatdown. Cutting to the chase, the master asks for the names of the people in charge in exchange for going easy during the fight. Finding the disrespect hilarious, Lin Nanhong swears to dish out a memorable lesson to show the guy who he is messing with. Making the first move, the opponent charges in raging, while the MC realizes he is not going to cooperate. Without making a big deal out of it, he catches the rival's punch and shakes his head at how disappointing it is to see brute force without any technique. The attacker's fist hits hard, but Lu Donglai's hand doesn't budge an inch. Shocked, the student cannot fathom how his heaviest strike got blocked so effortlessly. Sweating cold, he tries to pull back at all costs, but realizes his arm is locked in what feels like a steel vise. Taking advantage of the wide-open defense, Lu Donglai pivots his body and sets up a devastating counter. With scary precision, he lands an incredibly heavy kick right into the opponent's gut. Unable to guard himself, the bully is sent flying back, crashing through several desks at the rear of the room. Panicking, the students scream as they watch the toughest guy get completely embarrassed with just one hit. Furious about the mess, the teacher warns he is going to report the public brawl straight to the college administration. Walking smoothly through the dust of the broken desks, the MC ignores the terrified stares of the entire class. Whispering among themselves, the students say the defeated bully's family will definitely come back looking for a fatal payback. Reaching his downed prey, the master watches the guy cough in pain on the classroom floor. Standing over his opponent, the boy figures that this clan was just a tool for someone with way more pull. Overwhelmed by the pain, Lin Nanhung asks what the monster is still planning to do to him. As a clear warning, the cultivator grabs the enemy's shoulders and orders him to never drag his family into these schemes again. With a fast and ruthless move, he disables both of the opponent's arms in one go. The scream of pure agony echoes down the hallway as the bully thrashes in pain among the ruined chairs. With the room completely silent from the tension, the master calmly asks if the guy is finally dropping the beef. Terrified by the torture, the loser begs for mercy and promises he will steer clear of the Lu family. Correcting the guy on the spot, Lu Donglai clarifies that his real bloodline is the Yi family, demanding he stays away from them too. Happy with the promise, the master knows he had to play bad cop here, otherwise his sister would go through a lot of trouble later if he looked soft. With things handled, the young man turns his back on the beaten dude and heads for the door leading to the hallway. The MC's ice-cold look has everyone dead quiet as he walks past the crowd of frozen students. Freaking out on the floor, Lin Nanhung screams at his useless goons to drag him to the emergency room ASAP. Mad about the sheer disrespect, the teacher promises to slap the intruder with a harsh penalty for starting a fight in broad daylight. Trying to calm the man down, one student finally admits that the attacker is the school's famous failure. Completely lost, the professor wonders how such a skilled and ruthless fighter ever got slapped with a loser reputation. A little later, things quiet down over at the management buildings. Super hyped, a friend tells Yi Keeking to quickly check out the crazy news dropping on the student network. On the screen, the clip of the brutal knockout spreads like wildfire, flooded with comments hyping up the MC's hidden power. Bursting with pride, the sister cheers non-stop, thinking her brother's moves were absolutely legendary. Worried about the fallout, the friend points out that messing up the air of a military family is going to bring down some serious heat. Her mood flipping instantly, the girl grabs her phone to try and warn the young man about the incoming danger. Meanwhile, the college system announces a heavy penalty for Lu Donglai, who is just strolling around the courtyard without a care in the world. Lu Donglai picks up the phone and hears someone talking about a suspension, immediately asking what that has to do with him. Complaining about the yelling, the guy pulls the phone away from his ear while Yi Keeking frantically asks if he is listening. In a rush, the girl gets frustrated with her brother's chill vibe and warns him that Lin Nanhung comes from a military family that will 100% look for revenge. But the cultivator just fires back that he will handle whatever comes his way. He figures there is no point in sweating over mortal strength. Stressed, the young woman begs him not to leave campus for the next few days, promising she will meet up with him anywhere. Feeling the breeze on his face, the MC tells her he needs to level up his power a lot more and hangs up the call with his sister. In the meantime, over in the hospital room, Lin Nanhung's mom screams in outrage as she looks at her son's bandaged arms on the bed. Absolutely furious, the lady asks if the attacker has a death wish for pulling off such a bold assault right inside the school. Grinding his teeth in anger, the big guy asks them not to tell his dad, since he wants to mess the kid up with his own hands. Then, the young man's uncle says it is totally unacceptable for a piece of trash from the Lu family to have the guts to lay a hand on his nephew like that. Sporting a lethal look, the guy promises that this disrespect has to be paid back, or else the clan would lose its street cred in the area. Far from there, walking down the sidewalk, the master realizes he cannot afford to slack off right now, even if his enemies have limited skills. Clenching his fist tight, he complains about how insanely weak his body is at the moment, and decides he needs to boost his power ASAP. Standing by the curb, the young man flags down a cab, deciding it is time to move on to the next phase of his master plan. Chilling in the backseat, the cultivator tells the driver to take him to the closest traditional Chinese medicine shop. Holding his wallet, the MC is itching to boost his physical stats, even more as soon as he whips up the much-anticipated pill. Before long, the car pulls up outside the herbal medicine store, located right in the city's downtown business district. At the counter, Lu Donglai rattles off a specific list of ingredients, blowing the clerk's mind with his deep knowledge. Swiping his payment without wasting time, the guy just asks the worker to bag everything up quick. Back on the street, holding the bag, he thinks about how the medicine will secure his level up, but sighs over blowing through all his savings. Completely broke now, the master lets out a sigh, realizing he still needs to rent a quiet spot to brew the herbs. Just then, a familiar voice catches the young man's attention. It is Yi Keeking running down the street out of breath. Catching up to her brother, the girl angrily asks why he went out to buy meds after she explicitly told him to lay low. Wasting zero time, the cultivator says she showed up at the perfect moment and smoothly asks to borrow some cash without batting an eye. Caught off guard by the random request, both the young woman and her friend are left speechless and just make a sound of pure confusion. Holding up the grocery bag, the guy calmly explains that he needs to rent an empty room to prep the ingredients. At that, the sister pulls a few bills from her purse and asks if a little over 1,000 is enough to cover the rental fees. Seeing he is short on cash, the girl is actually glad he asked for help, figuring the medicine will be key to her brother's full recovery. Trying to fix the problem, the young woman's friend hands over a bank card, shyly mentioning she has over 4,000 saved up on it. Taking the card from her, Lu Donglai silently memorizes the PIN code, while the girl tells him not to make his sister worry over nothing. Checking out the young woman, the master spots the nasty energy inside her bones, absolutely certain she will not make it past 22 years old. Card in hand, the MC thanks her for the clutch assist and swears to pay back every cent within half a month. Surprised by her own move, Guru finds it weird that she trusts the guy so much, realizing he gives off a super convincing vibe now. Getting back on track, the cultivator looks at the piece of plastic and admits that this tiny amount is probably the girl's entire life savings. Walking along, he thinks about how fate works in funny ways, since he tried to dodge drama but ended up owing a favor instead. Remembering the sister's friend's terrible condition, the guy guesses that anyone with energy paths that messed up would have given up on life by now. Then, the master confidently claims that not even the king of hell would dare take the girl's soul now that he has taken on this massive side quest. After a long walk, the MC reaches a cluster of pretty rundown and empty buildings on the edge of the city. Handling the rent, the landlady charges 1,800 up front so he can move in right away, covering the deposit fees. Inside the dark room, the young man focuses on boosting his power to gain the upper hand sooner, holding onto his groceries. Glancing at the grimy walls and busted ceiling, he couldn't care less about the dump's terrible state, since the space gets the job done for his goal. Without missing a beat, the master sets up a portable gas stove on the floor and starts boiling water in a massive pot to speed up the process. Sitting surrounded by various bowls, the cultivator preps for the mix, remembering there are 3 main factors besides the perfect recipe. Locked in on the job, the guy makes a mental note that top-tier plants, heat control, and extraction are the keys to a win. Glowing with an intense blue aura from his hands, Lu Donglai makes the chopped herbs float in midair with crazy skill. To guarantee the best outcome, the MC separates the parts that need to be torched, diluted in water, and neutralized. Processing the plants with his power, he complains about how trash Earth's current environment is, watering down the healing punch of the ingredients. Confident in his ancient skills, the master uses his heat control to whip up the starter med, thinking the whole process is ridiculously easy. Suddenly, the peace and quiet is shattered by the loud noise of someone violently pounding on the front door. Thrown off by the unwanted interruption, the cultivator figures the racket means people with bad intentions tracked him down to this spot. With zero warning, a brutal kick splinters the wooden lock and blasts the room's door wide open in one hit. Standing out in the hall, the intruders complain about how hard it was to find the kid hiding in such a dump. Aiming their weapons right away, the masked thugs assure the blonde boss that this is the guy they came to take out. As soon as the green light is given, the criminals rush the young man full force, swearing to break every bone in his body right then and there. Keeping the pot boiling, Lu Donglai isn't rattled by the break-in, but thinks it is terrible luck they showed up right at the most sensitive step. Right after the guy warns them, he is way too busy to waste time playing with trash and smoothly slaps a large lid on the pot. Using slick and precise footwork, the MC dodges the group's attacks and sets up the opening stance of his ancient martial art. Taking advantage of the opening the thugs gave him, the master channels his spiritual power into his fist and tags the intruders right on the money. Thanks to the savage impact of the hit, the 2 goons are launched backward while screaming in unbearable pain. With no way to guard against the flawless strike, the men drop to the bedroom floor, completely wiped out by the cultivator's power. Ignoring the bodies on the ground, the guy sits cross-legged calmly around the stove to keep his work going. At the doorway, the group leader's eyes pop out of his head when he sees the hidden strength, wondering if this kid is a cultivation practitioner. Finding the scene funny, the blonde boss claps for the young man's toughness, impressed he didn't black out after taking a direct hit in the chaos. Using just one arm, the MC blocks the surprise charge, sizing up the enemy's strength and noting he doesn't practice energy cultivation. While the man backs up to build momentum, Lu Donglai gets up from the floor grabbing the pot, admitting he slept on the fighters from this place. Staring down the opponent, the master searches his memories and recognizes that this guy is a legit physical martial artist. Despite the flurry of quick punches, the guy admits that the stamina of a fighter at that level is way beyond normal human limits. Noticing the young man's defensive stance, the boss flashes a wicked smirk and makes a smart remark about how he is shielding the useless pot. Giving him zero time to react, the big guy lands a heavy kick straight into the side of the metal container with serious force. Watching the disaster happen in slow motion, the guy grinds his teeth in pure rage, knowing he was just a little heat away from finishing the medicine. With that, the attacker charges in mercilessly to exploit the massive opening the target left by losing focus mid-fight. But before the punch connects, a massive energy explosion pops off out of nowhere, sending a heavy shockwave across the room. Kicking up a thick cloud of dust and debris everywhere, the smoke slowly settles, showing an untouched silhouette standing in the dark. Right in the middle of the mess, Lu Donglai holds a golden pill between his teeth, celebrating the total success of his rushed cooking. Completely stunned by the unexplainable miracle, the blonde boss freaks out when he sees the kid's terrifying aura radiating like crazy. Cloaked in an aura of flames, the MC decides to use the martial artist as a test dummy for his new strength after hitting the second layer of chi condensation. Absolutely mind-blown by the sudden switch-up, the gang leader wonders how on earth the young man can put out such an intimidating vibe. Walking casually toward the opponent, the cultivator just asks if he is ready to meet his maker. Panicking under the pressure, the big guy goes all out, deciding he needs to strike first without wasting another second. With a heavy open palm strike, the attacker tries to hit the target dead on. Meanwhile, the young man finds it ironic he never paid attention to these martial arts before. Using a casual block, the master stops the blow with just one hand without breaking a sweat. Thanks to the counter, the opponent hits the deck screaming in agony over his wrecked hand, while the guy realizes the massive power gap from his new stage. Sweating cold, the group leader cannot figure out how a random college kid packs so much punch and demands to know the guy's real identity. Having zero patience for stupid questions, Lu Donglai fires off a ranged attack and orders the coward to shut up. Keeping his cold attitude, he states that absolutely no one on Earth has the clearance to interrogate him. Flaunting flames in the palm of his hand, the MC orders the opponent to spill who sent him there to end his life. If the guy lies, he will meet the same fate as that wooden desk, which is instantly shattered into pieces with a single swipe. Terrified by the flex, the thug coughs in fear on the floor of the wrecked room. Begging for mercy, the attacker instantly snitches that the young master of the Lin family was the one who ordered the hit. Confirming his gut feeling, the cultivator notes that the rival family's payback arrived way faster than he expected. Flashing an intense purple glow in his eyes, the master decides that the Lin clan will definitely pay this tab back with interest down the line. Trying to lower the heat, the goon asks if he has permission to bounce now that he spilled the truth about who called the shot. Cold and straight to the point, Lu Donglai agrees to let him walk but lays down one condition, making the coward complain that things couldn't be that simple. Cutting to the chase, the cultivator points out that the crew trashed the place and demands immediate cash to cover the damages to the freshly rented spot. Totally shocked by the random demand, the big guy can't believe his ears when he realizes the scary monster just wants money. Catching the hesitation, the guy asks in a threatening tone if there is an issue. Scared to death, the intruder promises he will pay it all right now. Terrified of losing his life, the boss kicks his own down buddies, telling the useless idiots to get up and wire the funds to Master Lu. In a matter of seconds, the phone screen pops up showing a pretty hefty transfer of over 200,000 coins dropping into the MC's account. Showing the receipt on the screen, the attacker nervously asks if they are cleared to go. Straight to the point, the master just tells the squad to get out of his sight. Without looking back, the three criminals sprint out of the ruined apartment as fast as their legs can carry them. Once outside, one of the thugs asks why they are running away, bringing up that the job the young Lin master paid for isn't done yet. Mad at his partner's stupidity, the boss just warns that having hands isn't going to save you when there is a ridiculous amount of money on the line. Alone again in the dark room, the MC lets out an exhausted sigh as he thinks about how this world runs purely on cash and clout. Staring at the bowls tossed across the wet floor, he complains about losing the meds that would have fast-tracked him straight to his third evolution stage. Picking up the scraps in the middle of the mess, the young man finds a tiny golden pill and gets annoyed realizing that is the only thing that survived his brewing session. Without many options left, the MC pops the little gold pill into his mouth in one go so he doesn't waste the energy he managed to scrape together. Sitting on the floor wrapped in flames, he focuses on locking in his newly reached tier right away, afraid of dropping back down to the first layer. Totally dialed into the absorption process, sweat drips down the cultivator's face while the energy rushes through his body. Out of nowhere, a bright purple light flashes in the guy's eye during his meditation trance. Getting up from the floor surrounded by floating energy, the master is amazed to discover the insane secret hereditary skill of the body's previous owner. Known as the Purple Extreme Demon Eye, this skill lets you see the true core of any material and reveals the original form of items. To test drive the newly unlocked perk, he turns his head to the side while his eyes keep glowing with that creepy purple color. Staring at a fridge pushed up against the wall, the MC can see right through the metal and perfectly spot everything stashed inside. Hyped about the random drop, the cultivator admits this busted talent is a legit blessing, something he actually wished he had back in his past life. But the hype dies fast when a sharp pain hits the guy's eye, instantly shutting down the magic glow. Hit with a massive wave of dizziness, he almost hits the deck, realizing the magic technique drains a ridiculous amount of spiritual energy that he doesn't have yet. Because of the surprise drain, the kid starts doing the math on the heavy costs from the potions, the ruined meds, and the repairs for the rented spot. Giving up on standing, Lu Donglai lies down on the cold floor and groans about how surviving in this mortal universe is entirely tied to having a fat bank account. While chilling on the floor of the dark room, the silence is broken by a notification pinging on his phone. Checking the lit screen, the guy sees a news clip about some dude who bought an old vase at a market and flipped the antique for over 10 million. Excited by the perfect opportunity, the MC decides to use his new magic vision to go treasure hunting and fix his cash flow problems. Not wasting a second to rest his head, he bounces up and tells himself he is leaving the apartment right this second. Taking long strides through the crowded alleys of the historic district's antique market, the guy is itching to find some hidden gems around the place. Taking a deep breath as he faces the sea of shoppers, the cultivator mentally preps for the exhausting grind ahead. Locked in on his high-value goal, the master flips on the purple extreme demon eye to scan all the stalls in the area at once. Soon enough, a vendor tries to push a nice blue ceramic vase for 30,000, swearing up and down it is an authentic piece from the Ming dynasty. Scanning the piece with his laser focus, the guy checks every little detail of the makeup hidden under the stall's bright paint job. In seconds, the special ability clearly shows that the old object is nothing but a massive, worthless knockoff. Turning his back to the busy stand, the MC roasts the terrible, distressing technique, which leaves the seller super salty. Walking past the rows of merchants, Lu Donglai only sees useless junk, complaining about how this market is one giant waste of time. Rubbing his tired face from spamming the skill, he realizes he needs to save his juice, since randomly scanning stuff will drain his tank fast. But right at that moment of downtime, the young man picks up a super faint hum of mystical energy coming from a stand just a bit further down. Carefully scoping out the goods, the master spots a dark iron cube giving off a soft green glow on the inside that nobody else can see. Blown away by the weird find, the cultivator admits that tracking down even a drop of spiritual power in this dry world is already a crazy achievement. As he gets closer to the prize, the guy notices another bald customer dressed in camo staring at the exact same iron block at the shop. As soon as the dude walks away down the street, the MC clocks that the sketchy guy was a martial warrior, realizing this place has way more experts wandering around than he thought. Then the vendor chimes in saying the prices are negotiable. Playing it safe, the cultivator decides not to grab the metal block right away so he doesn't look suspicious. Faking total boredom, the guy casually walks up and drops a few casual questions about the price tags on some random stuff scattered on the wooden table. Checking out the customer's cheap clothes, the vendor sees an easy mark, absolutely convinced he is about to scam this clueless kid. Quoting crazy high numbers for the basic junk, the shop owner listens to the kid complain about the rip-off prices and sarcastically suggests he should just go rob a bank instead. Holding his own phone to crunch the numbers, Lu Donglai cooks up a fast scheme and decides to use the fancy fan as a smokescreen for his real target. Haggling hard on the first offer, the guy agrees to buy the fan as long as the iron cube gets thrown in for free, a deal the vendor takes in a heartbeat. After wiring the full amount, the master celebrates scoring the epic loot, completely ignoring the merchant who thinks he is a massive sucker. With a super classy flick, the MC pops open his brand new fan, enjoying the cool breeze hitting his warm face. To his massive surprise, he realizes the decoy item is actually a legit historical piece too, meaning he could easily flip it for 100 times more profit right there. In the middle of the packed street, a scream for help shatters the chill morning vibe, announcing someone passed out and begging for a doctor ASAP. Collapsed on the dirty pavement, an old man shows zero response while his grandson, Chen Yang, shakes him in pure panic praying for a miracle. Kneeling next to the sick man, the same martial warrior from the shop orders the kid to call for emergency backup on the double to save the VIP's life. Watching the sad scene unfold from a distance, the guy figures the kid's family must have some serious pull to have a martial fighter taking direct orders like that. Not really caring about the drama, the cultivator decides to mind his own business, choosing to head home fast and craft his new overpowered item. Stopping in his tracks, Lu Donglai hears the young man scream that he will drop 100,000 yuan reward for anyone who saves his grandpa's life. Hearing the money talk, the MC decides that fat stack of cash is a solid enough reason for him to step in. Standing near the old man, the bald bodyguard warns that the ambulance is 10 minutes out, making the grandson freak out over the delay. Stressed as things go south, the young man begs the crowd for an expert to step up and at least do some first aid. However, the bystanders refuse to help, terrified of catching a manslaughter charge if the guy who already looks like a goner doesn't make it. Seeing the crowd back away, Chen Yang cries while holding the old man's body and asks if seriously no one here has the skills to help him. Right then, the cultivator confidently steps through the crowd, parting the sea of scared onlookers. Surprised by the sudden entrance, the bodyguard and the grandson stare in shock at the kid who just stepped into the circle. Standing right in front of them with zero hesitation, Lu Donglai straight up claims he has the tools to save the old man. Shocked by the flex, the guy sizes up the kid's plain clothes and immediately asks if he even went to med school. Not embarrassed at all, the master admits he has no medical degree, but doubles down that he has everything it takes to keep the man breathing. Annoyed by the cockiness, the guard tries to block the kid, warning him he won't be able to handle the fallout if he messes up. Ignoring the threat, the MC throws a lightning-fast chop at the big guy's hand to clear the roadblock. Taking advantage of the gap, the guy warns them the old man is literally going to cross over if they keep stalling his help. Totally stunned by the heavy force behind the block, the martial artist steps back gripping his hand, having no idea what just hit him. Still spooked by the kid's crazy physical strength, the guard backs off instantly when the master tells them to lay the old man flat on the ground. Standing right behind the patient, the cultivator figures his current power level is more than enough to clear the blocked paths in the failing heart. Wasting zero time, he gathers a glowing blue aura in his hand, prepping the magical procedure. Wearing a dead serious look, the MC thrusts his arm forward to kick off the transfer of healing juice. The precise strike lands right on the old patient's back, forcing the spiritual power deep into the damaged system. From the brute force of the technique, the old man coughs up a massive amount of dark blood onto the street pavement. Horrified watching the violent scene, Chen Yang screams in panic for his grandpa, convinced the worst just happened. Taken over by deadly rage, the bodyguard curses the kid out and demands to know what the hell he just did to his clan leader. Keeping his chill at absolute max, the master sighs, tired of all this pointless drama going on around him. Completely losing his mind, the bald fighter charges the kid in a blind rage, ready to avenge his boss's supposed demise. Mid-charge, the big guy promises the attacker will not get the slightest chance to leave this place alive. But before the strike even lands, the cultivator simply points two fingers right near the enemy's forehead in a chilling flex. Shooting an ice-cold glare, Lu Donglai warns him that this is his last strike, and heavily advises the guy not to move a single muscle. Sweating cold under the suffocating killing intent, the martial artist panics over getting completely shut down so easily. In that peak moment of tension, a weak and raspy voice rings out, telling the bodyguard to stand down immediately. Coughing a bunch, the old man finally comes to his senses, making his grandson cry tears of pure joy that he pulled through. Calming down, the patient explains he felt a heavy block crushing his chest, but right now he can breathe perfectly fine. Then the old man reassures his grandson and tells the bodyguard that it was indeed the student who pulled him out of the dark. Super grateful, the elder hypes up the save big time, but the MC cuts the small talk and asks them to hand over the promised cash. Noticing the mood shift, the bystanders whisper, finding the kid's blunt hustle to collect the bag pretty hilarious. Tired of wasting time, the master repeats that he only jumped in for the paycheck and expects the loaded family not to back out of the deal now. Finding the straightforwardness amusing, the old man lets out a hearty laugh and praises the kid's no-nonsense vibe, giving him a friendly pat on the back. Without any runaround, the family boss tells his grandson to hand over the quoted cash right on the spot to the amazing hero. Handing over the stacks of bills, the bald meathead apologizes for the mix-up earlier and thanks him for the save. Nearby, the crowd turns green with envy watching an insane amount of hard cash changing hands right in the middle of the street. Holding the bag, the cultivator thinks it is crazy for someone to walk around with that much physical cash in a bag, absolutely positive these guys are loaded. With the payment locked in, the young man signals that the transaction is done and turns around to keep browsing the market. Right away, the old man asks the guy to hold up a second, making the master stop in his tracks and ask what the issue is this time. Sharing his struggles, the old man explains he has been dealing with this heart condition for a while, and that standard medicine cannot offer a permanent fix. Looking hopeful, the elder admits that what just happened felt like magic, and asks if the young man has the skills to cure him completely. Faced with the request for medical help, the MC stays quiet for a brief second, just weighing the options. Scanning the sick man's blocked pathways, the master figures out that with his current stats and a pill, a full recovery is 100% doable. Showing zero hesitation, the guy shoots back a clear yes, stating he has what it takes to wipe the sickness out for good. Blown away by the confidence, the grandson doubts the claim, bringing up that not even top-tier hospitals could figure it out. Not caring about standard procedures, the cultivator states his skills are on another level. Catching the hint, the old man asks what the price tag for the procedure is. Trying to guess the cost of the miracle run, the sick man nervously holds up one finger, expecting the hero to drop a multi-million quote. Without missing a beat, Lu Donglai mirrors the gesture and demands 100,000 for every extra year of survival, assuring the old man he will live for another 2 decades. Eavesdropping on the sidewalk deal, a nosy bystander does the math super fast and thinks it is absolutely insane for the kid to charge 2 million for a treatment. Going completely against expectations, the rich boss lets out a booming laugh in front of the crowd when he hears the asking price. Thrilled with the deal, the old man claims the treatment was a total steal, which just proves to the MC how much pull this family really has. Not carrying that kind of cash on him right now, the patient asks for the guy's banking info so he can wire the fortune tomorrow without fail. Rejecting the IOUs, the master turns around again and coldly states he doesn't work on credit for anyone. Laying down the ground rules, he sets up a meeting at the exact same spot in 2 days, demanding the payment be made up front in full before he busts out the magic treatment. Agreeing to the tight deadline without blinking, the wealthy man takes the deal and respectfully asks for his hero's family name. Walking away under the sun, the young man just drops his family's title as he fades into the crowded market. Still full of doubts, Chen Yang asks if they can actually trust the guy. At that, the grandpa asks the guard if he didn't catch the kid's real power a minute ago. Confirming the insane strength, the meathead admits that the kid's fighting and healing skills are totally out of this world. Flashing a confident smile, the family head states his heavy military background gave him a sharp eye that never misses when judging a person's character. While the clan stands on the street still shocked by the kid's swagger, the MC walks away smoothly thinking about the massive payday from today's crazy run. With the valuable rock in his hands, the young man realizes that the cash he just got plus the future wire will solve all his money problems for a good while. Out of nowhere, the cultivator's boosted hearing catches a super faint and incredibly familiar sound cutting through the street noise. Stopping his walk, the master immediately clocks 3 guys moving quietly right on his tail. Judging by the specific footsteps, the kid figures the stalkers are several yards back and have been tailing him in stealth mode for a while through the market. Not showing any fear of an ambush, the guy keeps walking, dragging the enemies straight into a secluded alleyway. Calmly weighing his options, the young man wonders if it is the enemy's goons or the old man's security guard trying to get payback for earlier. But he quickly recognizes the sloppy rhythm of the noisy steps, confirming it is the exact same trash gang of punks from college. At the mouth of the alley, the attackers who broke into the apartment watch their target, plotting a sneak attack since they are terrified of the guy's lethal power. Convinced they have the numbers advantage against a solo target, the 3 criminals step into the dark street ready for the final showdown. Annoyed by the goons' persistence, the cultivator decides he is done going easy on people who refuse to learn a basic life lesson. Standing all the way at the back of the grimy path, the MC waits calmly in the shadows of the buildings to exterminate the pests that stepped onto his turf. Stopping dead in his tracks in the middle of the alley, Lu Donglai spots the 3 thugs waiting for him in the dark. Acting all cocky, the blonde boss asks if the kid wasn't expecting to get tracked down again. Setting his bags down coolly, the cultivator admits he actually didn't see that coming. Wrapped in a terrifying crimson energy, the master asks if losers still have the guts to try something. Crushed by the guy's suffocating energy, the attackers back up, totally paralyzed by fear. Trying to hide his panic, the big blonde guy clicks his tongue, looking super annoyed. Wasting zero time, he orders his crew to rush in fast, swearing to wreck the victim right on the spot. Right on cue, the 2 lackeys charge full speed at the MC in the middle of the empty street. Sizing up the enemies, the master concludes that regular humans are not a real threat to his current power tier. Focused on setting up a counter, he asks himself what these guys' real endgame is. Frozen in fear, the goons cannot process how the kid got so insanely fast all of a sudden. Capitalizing on the perfect mistake, the guy unleashes a devastating double strike right to the chests of both attackers. Thanks to the heavy impact, the duo is sent flying, screaming in sharp pain before crashing into the ground. Seeing that, the boss charges in with a blade, promising to drag the kid down to the grave with him. Watching the cheap shot coming from the side, Lu Donglai just tells the trash to take a one-way trip to the underworld. Using only 2 fingers, the MC stops the blade in midair with absurd skill. Without letting go of the enemy's weapon, the young man brings up that he already let the gang off the hook once and demands answers. With a lightning-fast move, he lands a brutal kick to the attacker's stomach, messing him up real bad. Walking toward the downed body, the cultivator wants to know how much cash the Lin family dropped for the hit. Even though he is beaten on the floor, the blonde boss lets out a laugh, swearing the target is already a dead man walking. Not getting why the loser is suddenly acting so tough, the master simply asks what the heck that means. Out of nowhere, the loud blast of sirens shatters the quiet alley, signaling the cops have arrived. Blocking off the street exit, two cruisers slam on their brakes hard right near the mess. As soon as he hops out, the squad leader orders everyone to freeze and put their hands on their heads. Faced with a massive disadvantage, Lu Donglai realizes he is not bulletproof and decides to avoid a shootout. Then the officers aim their weapons and tell the kid to get his hands up immediately. While getting arrested without a fight, the MC thinks it is super shady that the squad rolled up that fast. The captain officially books him for the armed brawl, but the kid argues that he was the one getting jumped first. Totally ignoring the facts, the officer points to the confiscated blade as rock-solid proof. Without missing a beat, the cop tells the guy to save his excuses for the precinct and shuts down the conversation right there. Doing the perp walk in handcuffs, the blonde thug mutters a taunt at the kid, claiming his run is officially over. After rounding everyone up, the cruisers speed out of the area, heading down the city streets. Inside the cop car, the MC calmly asks what exactly these officers are trying to pull. Taking a drag from his smoke, the captain arrogantly warns that the kid should already know the score. Without hesitating, Lu Donglai drops the name of the rival family, earning a slow clap from the cop. The guy thinks it is funny that a dumb pawn thinks he has the right to disrespect the young master just because he knows how to throw a punch. Keeping up his high and mighty act, the cop guarantees that fighting skills mean absolutely nothing against deep pockets. Flashing a killer glare, the cultivator silently swears he is going to collect on this debt with heavy interest later. Miles away, the sun slowly sets behind the massive structure of the central hospital. In the VIP room, a lackey updates the injured heir that the target was finally bagged. Seething with rage in the shadows, the big guy promises the student is about to learn a brutal lesson. Meanwhile, the squad car continues its quiet drive through the wide, empty downtown streets. Breaking the silence in the back seat, the master suggests the officer better only keep him locked up for 2 days. Pissed off by the disrespect, the captain asks if the idiot still hasn't grasped how bad his situation is. But the kid just points out that the cops can still save their badges if they let him walk. With eyes like ice, the master warns that the agents will be begging for his forgiveness in a few days. Leaking killing intent, the kid's aura makes the squad leader sweat cold bullets in the front seat. Seriously spooked, the man yells, asking who this piece of Lu family trash thinks he is trying to scare. The driver gets nervous at the threat, but the boss tells him to zip it, since the billionaire client's word is law around here. Soon after, the cars finally pull up to the police headquarters in the historic part of town. Dragging the kid out of the ride, the cops tell him to walk fast across the lot. Walking the halls, the squad leader reports the successful bust to the crooked captain, looking super proud. Acting totally heartless, the commander mentions the statement is already signed off and decides how the kid is going to meet his end. Not showing an ounce of fear, the cultivator asks if they aren't worried about framing someone so openly. Hearing that, the police chief lets out a dark laugh, thinking the question is the funniest joke ever. Dripping with arrogance, the dirty cop claims he calls all the shots around there, mocking the student's naive mindset. Right after, he orders the guards to strip the victim of his personal stuff to stop any funny business. Being walked down the blocks, the kid hears the guards whispering about the cell block full of heavy hitters. Tired of these games, Lu Donglai figures out that even his cell assignment was rigged by his enemies. Reaching the heavy steel door, the guard tells the inmate to step inside on the double. Right before walking in, the MC hits them with some sarcasm, advising the guards to enjoy their paychecks while they last. With a loud metallic crash, the heavy gate slams shut, cutting the young man off from the outside world. In the pitch-black cell, several pairs of red eyes lock onto the rookie from behind like predators. Hyped about the new drop, one of the inmates recognizes the hit put out by the rival family. Flashing his metal teeth, the boss of the cell block gets pumped for the night's new entertainment. Without even getting off his bunk, the massive guy orders his goons to show the college kid how things work around here. Surrounded by hitmen, Lu Donglai thinks about the fat stack of cash his enemy blew on this setup. Ignoring the tough guy act, the young man calmly walks around looking for a spot to chill. Annoyed that the kid isn't bowing down, a goon with a mohawk grabs the victim's arm trying to start something. Turning his face with pure disgust, the master simply demands the trash get out of his way. His thug pride hurt, the prisoner clicks his tongue, feeling his blood boil with absolute rage. Losing it, he tries to throw a cheap shot at the back of the kid's head, aiming to knock him out cold instantly. With flawless reflexes, the cultivator blocks the surprise attack, stopping the punch dead in its tracks. Showing zero mercy, the young man bends the criminal's arm in a totally unnatural way, causing a sharp, nasty pain. Shocking the rest of the block, the attacker hits the floor whining and grabbing his busted limb. Watching their boy's arm get snapped like a twig so easily, the other inmates stare at the new kid in absolute disbelief. With chaos brewing, the boss, Scar, steps up and claps for the kid's combat skills. Resting his hand on the victim's back, the big guy warns that on the inside, even the toughest guys have to bow their heads and fall in line. Flaunting his cruelty, the commander promises he is going to break every bone in the MC's body until he begs to be put out of his misery. Wrapping up his speech, he states this beatdown will help the kid understand what happens when you cross young Master Lin. At that, the rest of the criminals start yelling and hyping up the room, hoping the boss totally wrecks the kid. Thinking he already has the win in the bag, the thug tells the cultivator to get on his knees and kiss his boots if he wants him to go a little easier. As a comeback to the useless insult, the master grabs the massive guy's hand and brutally twists his fingers in the opposite direction. Wearing an ice-cold expression, Lu Donglai runs out of patience and asks if this squad of losers is physically incapable of taking a hint. Overwhelmed by unbearable agony, the attacker grinds his teeth in rage and curses the kid out for the sneak attack. Furious from the disrespect, the commander orders all his goons to jump the student at once to cripple him. Then the thug reminds everyone that the client greenlit extreme measures and says he is dying for some violent fun. Instantly, the inmates box the MC in from all sides, promising they are going to teach him a real lesson. The young man notices that all the enemies reek of a strong scent of danger, confirming that there isn't a single innocent soul in this cell block. Seeing that, the cultivator decides to stop holding back and gathers a heavy, hot blue energy on the surface of his hand. Radiating mystic power through his entire body right then, the master decides there is absolutely no reason to play nice with thugs at this level of cruelty.